Hello and welcome to another episode of Women in Sport, the podcast that celebrates all the incredible female athletes we have here on the island from pretty much any sport you can think of. I'm Rhian Evans. Thank you very much for your company today. This week we are looking at archery. Just in case you're wondering what the eerie music choice is about this week, that is the music from The Hunger Games, which of course features the fabulous heroine Katniss Everdeen, whose superpower is pretty much being an amazing archer. But moving on to our very own versions of Katniss Everdeen on the Isle of Man, I have with me on the show today two legends in the Manx archery field.
Okay, my name's Lesley Sleight. I actually belong to Bowderham Vannin Field Archery Club as well as Isle of Man Archery Club, but my predominantly is Bowderham Vannin. I started because my husband and my two children were involved in archery, and when you compete across, you have to have a shoot guardian, and so one of the children wasn't allowed to compete, so I had to start so that I could take him across so he could come compete. So that's how I started, just because of my husband and our two boys.
Do your children still?
They competed up to about the age of 17, and then they found hockey and rugby, so they're very much involved in that now.
And I'm Joy Gough. I'm a member of the Isle of Man Archery Club, and I started off in 1991 when I went to Butlins with the school as a mum helper and took part in all the various activities. And the two I liked were judo and archery. And as I was sort of, middle-aged, if that's a nice polite way to put it, I thought I'd be able to do archery longer than I could do judo. When I came home, just by sheer chance, there was an advert on the radio, I think it was, to say they were having a ladies come and try at night. So I went along, and that was it.
That's so you started back in the early 90s. Has archery changed much in that time? I'm not really sure how it works when you're competing. Could you sort of go through how
yes,
it works?
Yes, it has, but mostly not in the technique of it, but in the equipment. Obviously, it's gone forward in leaps and bounds with all the new materials and the way things are made these days. So, but the technique's basically what I was taught from the start. So,
can you give us a general sort of insight as to what an archery competition is structured like?
Okay, so I do what's called field archery. So our discipline is literally, if you think about golf, so you're going on a course through the woods, you might have uphill, downhill shots, across lakes, different distances, and you can have the roundels, which is similar to target, where you have circles. You could have 3D animals, or you could have paper faces. You could have marked distances, or you could have unmarked distances. So it's a lot of different things. That's field archery.
On the target side, it's a more structured side. We shoot outdoors at the ladies, for example, at 4 different distances in a day. We start off at 70 metres and shoot 3 dozen, come forward to 60 metres, shoot another 3, 50 metres, another 3, and 30 metres we end with another 3. So we do 12 dozen arrows, all at the what you would recognise as the standard archery target face.
Talking about girls and boys, so during this podcast, often we sort of, like with the basketball girls, when we did that sport, we realised that there's hardly any girls that play basketball on the island, and there's football losing numbers, and yet it's massive for the boys' side. In terms of archery, is there much of a gender imbalance in the sport?
On the island, definitely in our club, there's a gender. There's not many women. Competitively, I was just looking up for the Worlds this year, about 45% are women, and in the Europeans, 35%. It's out of about 1,500 archers, about 35%. So yes, there are less women archers than men.
Why do you think that is?
Maybe because it could be the family role that the mums have. I mean, if you're competing, it's full days, and if you want to compete for GB, you're looking at weekends for selections, and it's lots of time out. So that could be a reason.
That's why we like to try and encourage it as a family sport, so that the mum can come along with the children, like Lesley did when she started, and tried to involve the whole family, which gives the mum that extra sort of time with the children when she's probably been working all week, but she's enjoying her sport with the children.
Well, yeah, Leslie, you'll be the poster woman for that, coming along to get your kids involved, and then the success you've had from it is incredible.
Yes, and the good thing about archery is that you can do it at any age. My children started at the age of about 6, but we've got archers in the GB team well into the 60s competing with 20-year-olds and competing as well, because you either get selected or you don't. There's no age thing for Great Britain. So it is quite a leveler sport, because when you get older, you drop your poundage in your bow. And so you can still compete. It is a great sport for that.
As far as the girls in our club are concerned, recently we've had a surge, which is it's unknown. We've now got more girls than boys shooting, juniors.
Brilliant.
And we don't know, but we think it's down to Disney's Brave and Katniss Everdeen.
That's so funny, because I've got written in my notes, did you get a surge in numbers with Katniss Everdeen?
We've just had one junior girl started who's doing really well, and I asked her, was it because of Brave? She said, no, Katniss Everdeen.
Katniss Everdeen would do it for me.
So the media are doing a lot for the sport in that sort of general view of things.
I always thought archery had quite a cool reputation, because Robin Hood was one of my favourite Disney films growing up, and ever since then, being about 5 or 6, I had a fake one, and I was always like, archery is just cool. If you can do archery, it's just cool.
I was doing an archery club at school, and it was lots and lots of young lads, year 8s. I also was teaching it in games lessons for girls, so I was giving them a chance. And once they've done it in games lessons, more were coming to club. But initially, the club for the voluntary definitely was boys, and it was the films. Yeah,
but they're harder to teach.
Oh, really? Is that what you found?
They come with a preset idea.
Right, okay.
Although I did have one little girl who wouldn't let go of the arrow because she was frightened she was going to cut her face like Brave, like on Brave.
Oh,
and I had to sort of explain to her that doesn't really happen. It was only in the film.
So what are the sort of, if I was to come along to a beginner lesson, what are the basic techniques that you would teach me?
Well, we run a beginner's course because for our affiliation to Archery GB, we have to do a recognised course, which is 5 or 6 weeks. We do it in 5, and we teach you from nothing through to shooting and scoring, etc., etc. And then from then you have the choice whether you want to carry on and join the club or whether you've just treated it as a hobby. What
would you say over your time doing archery and also competing in archery, what have been your career highlights in the sport?
Well, I think for me, the first time I put a GB vest on, I mean, that's something you're always going to remember. But I think this year, actually getting the world records and getting an adult and veteran world records, I wasn't expecting that, so that was good, and winning the world championships. But there's lots of highlights. But yes, I suppose those are the main.
That's incredible, to hold one world record would be incredible, but to hold multiple, I mean, how does it feel?
I was actually disappointed for the first one because I got a world record, but I had entered as a veteran, and I was told that I'd get the adult as well because I actually beat the adult world record. And then I think I'm the first person that's happened to, so they must have had a meeting about it and said, right, we can't do that, you can only have the record in the discipline that you actually enter. So a month later I was at the North American field, so I was actually competing as an adult, so I had that in my mind, I've got to get that adult world record that I thought I deserved, because I actually did get it, but a point less than my veteran world record. So I'm actually the only archer who actually holds a veteran world record higher than an adult world record, as well as having both classes, so I felt quite proud about that.
Yeah, quite rightly too. That's incredible. It's really, really incredible. And how long did you say you've been doing archery for?
I've been doing about 17, 18 years now.
Right, okay. Yeah. And you didn't have any previous experience going into it? You just sort of came naturally?
Well, I've always done outdoor education, so I've been a kayaker, I've been a rock climber, and expeditions, and one sport always leads on to another. So I had the upper arm strength for my kayaking, and that's the beauty when the youngsters try different sports, and they might not find the right one, but always a sport might lead on to another sport, and that's what I found. So I sort of built up.
When you're competing, is it ladies separate to men's, or is it a mixed bag?
In international competitions, you're separate, but if you're just an ordinary competition, you're all mixed together.
And do you see much of a difference when the competition is mixed?
Quite regularly.
She's better than the men.
The men. But yeah, so sometimes I use the men as my focal point. But the beauty about archery actually is it's so individual, and I go out to try and get my best score rather than the position. It's like, so I could win but be disappointed because I'm like 10 points off my PB or something. You've got that individual goal, which is beautiful, great about archery. It is an individual sport.
Yeah, and I think as a sport, it's great because we talk a lot about, with other sports, the definite difference between men and women physically, and that's not a problem, but it has brought with it negative stereotypes that women's sport is less interesting to watch because the men are faster, or the men are stronger, or the men are taller, which I don't think is fair. Just because something is different doesn't mean it's any less valuable, and with archery it seems like the playing field might be a bit more level.
The men's scores are better. It's because they can actually pull the higher poundage bows. So if you are pulling a higher poundage bow, then your arrow's faster, and then I have to shoot between 5 and 80 yards. So from the long shots, I'm way up in a tree because my projection has to be higher, whereas if you're pulling a very fast bow, you might not have to aim as high. So there are advantages to be able to put, if you're stronger.
Do you get that sort of, in terms of spectators, is there a disadvantage for being a woman in the sport?
The spectators, only in international would you get spectators maybe on the finals day, because it's too dangerous for them to wander around with you. Mm-hmm. So what they tend to do is the cameras and the people will be, they'll set shots up. Mm-hmm. So it's a spectator sport for those finals or the last few days. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing qualifications, you'd just go around as a group.
Joy, what are your career highlights in archery?
Well, I can't aspire to world records, I'm afraid. I did have an Island Games record once.
That's awesome.
A distance record, which has been well beaten by now. But I was the first Manx archer to get a gold in archery at the Island Games in 1999. So that's my little highlight.
Little.
Compared to world level, that's my Olympics.
No, that's fantastic. Absolute trailblazers. In terms of numbers, you said they're increasing due to things like films and whatnot. If other people want to get involved, what's the best way for them to do it?
From a target archery point of view, we have a website, Alaman Archery, and on that site there's a menu that gives you a beginner's link, and you just apply there and it comes automatically through to me and I can reply giving you all the information. But in our sport we have to do the regulated weekly lesson, and we only do those indoors because of the weather can change and we can't get continuity for 5 weeks. So we do those indoors. So we have one in October and one in January. So we've just finished our second course this year. But I keep the list going all through the year and get in touch with people.
How did this course go?
This course?
Yeah.
Fine. The last 2 courses we've had, I've got a note here, 31 people came through the course, and we've had five junior girls joined.
Fabulous.
And four ladies have joined. Awesome. Also 5 men and 2 boys.
Brilliant.
So it's good for a small club. It's starting to get a bit embarrassing with numbers sometimes, because we've got restricted hall use. So we'll have to think a little bit further if it keeps increasing the way it's going, which is great for the sport.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's so good to hear, because in other episodes it's the exact opposite, and they're losing numbers, and it's so sad, when people are so passionate about this sport and just can't do it because you just don't have the numbers.
But like Lesley said, it's a very individual sport. You're only competing against yourself, and then if you've got the highest score, you win. Yeah. So, but you're trying to get yourself better all the time, and it's a good sport for a child or a junior who's not particularly a team player. Mm-hmm. They find we get a lot of quiet little people who just want to do their own thing.
Yeah.
And you can bring them on and you can see the confidence grow as they get to, they see this starting to hit gold and they think, oh, good, I'm getting good at this. And it gives them a lot of confidence. Yeah, it's good sport for that.
Good.
For field archery, we meet Sundays at Bushes Glen. It's behind the forge, part of the Bushes Brewery. 1:00, and the best thing is I've got a contact number 835674. Give us a ring. We take people at any time, so you're taught over a few weeks until you're proficient to go around the course yourself, or we go in groups anyway. So we do it slightly different, so anybody can turn up any time, and we have the equipment ready for you to have a go. We find people that love to be in the countryside, love walking, because you're out in all weathers. So summer is a little bit busier than the winter, but we regularly have about a dozen at the moment coming down through the winter. As you say, if you like the outdoors, like walking, like shooting a bow, it's a great opportunity to have a go.
Do you get anyone coming dressed up as, what's her name? Is it Meridia from Brave?
No, we don't.
Merida, sorry, yeah.
Merida.
Or people dressed up as Katniss Everdeen. I might just turn up dressed as Katniss. I'm here.
Usually, as long as they've got the Wellingtons on, because it's so muddy and wet at the moment.
Surprised, yeah. I've got to ask, have you ever had any slight mishaps, either yourselves with sort of injuries or maybe someone who's rocked up for the first time and accidentally shot someone? Touch wood, hopefully not.
No mishaps, but when I was in Australia, when we were at the Worlds in Australia, we had kangaroos jumping in front of the bosses, which is very off-putting because when you come to full draw, sometimes it's quite difficult to let down because you've got you're holding a lot of poundage, and when a kangaroo suddenly pops up in front of the boss, it can be a bit nerve-wracking. Yeah. So that's things like that, or the odd deer in England will run across the boss.
Yeah, we've had a swarm of bees when we were in Ireland once. Everybody ducked and let them pass.
Oh God! When you say in front of the boss, what does that mean?
So we shoot at a square foam structure which basically stops the arrow. So on the boss, you'll have your target, which could be round circles, or as I say, it could be a paper target with an animal on. So yeah, that's called the boss.
How are you with nerves?
Right. I'm struggling at the moment. After the last GB, we had a head-to-head, and it's my first. They changed the format of the shoot, and we had to go after qualifications. If you got through qualifications, you went straight on to head-to-head, which I wasn't used to. And with the cameras, people watching, I fell apart and I couldn't hit anything, and it made me go into target panic. So Sean Griffiths has been very great, a psychologist, Sports Institute, of helping me find ways of calming myself down through breathing techniques, visualization, stuff like that. But it comes and goes.
That's really interesting because I do ask people about nerves before big games, but I haven't actually spoken to anyone who's had to deal with live TV or cameras and that scale. So it's fascinating to know that people, even at the top of their game, can still be affected. So how did you come back from that slight wobble?
The trouble is you don't, so you can get it. So sometimes I'll be fine, absolutely great, and then something could trigger it. Could be a difficult shot. I remember in the last Worlds, there was a very narrow gap between two trees, and it was just difficult, and I just started panic shooting. Right. And then you just have to try and rein it back in again, and I find it more difficult in doing indoor archery, which I'm doing at the moment because I've got the Europeans coming out. I've got it at the moment, so I'm doing a lot of bag practice, which is just holding onto the bag and holding my shot. And it's the thing is, I know I can do it, and then you get cross with yourself, and when you get cross with yourself, it gets worse. And that's the problem. It's putting pressure on yourself, and you just have to take the pressure off.
Yeah, easier said than done, I'm sure. Yeah. What sort of psychological techniques do you get given to sort of calm you?
A lot of breathing. Saying mantras, like I've got all the time in the world when I'm shooting. I was trying to do a nursery rhyme the other day to not shoot until I got to a certain word in the in the rhyme. Visualization, so I do a lot of that, lying in bed, just thinking the shot process through. But you don't want to be hanging on to the shot too long either. It's got to be timed. It's got the timing of the shot's got to be right, really.
Correct.
Yeah.
What about you, Joy? Nerves in competitions before the Island Games?
A little bit, but you need a little bit for that adrenaline bit. But it's balancing it out against the relaxation thing, because you've got to be as relaxed as you can to perform your shot. So you have to put yourself into a zone of your own, basically. And I use bullet points as reminders, and I have things. Sometimes lots of archers sing a song in their head.
I'm just picturing the Bryan Adams song from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Well, a really good one is another Bryan Adams one, which is called. It's. I'm trying to think what it's.
Sing it for us.
I'm trying to think what it's called. It's gone. But it was our Island Games anthem for the archery team for a while.
When it pops into your head, do tell me, because
It's track 7.
Track
on
7.
18 Till You Die.
I'm going to find that out, and I'm going to put that at the end of the podcast.
It's just gone from my mind.
It is a problem that a lot of archers do get, especially I think once you've got to a certain level.
Yeah. I think you've got to get to that level to experience that as well. You know, the ultimate sort of your game, like for Lesley and the cameras and the worlds. I mean, I've been in the Indo National targets, and I got to about the quarterfinals, and I really started to feel that pressure, and you just have to work through it and calm down, and you're only doing another shot. It's another shot, and that's it.
The last shot of my worlds, we started the last day, the three of us, with 3 points between us. So we went into the last day all close, and the nerves had got to all of us. We all missed the first shot. And then we all missed the second shot. We all laughed because we'd all the pressure. But the last shot of the day, there was only 5 points between myself. And so I just knew I had to get it was 3D animals, I had to get the kill area on this last shot. And in fact, I was really calm. I thought I was going to panic here, but I didn't. I was really, really calm, and I did get it, and the other girl didn't, and so I won by 5 points. So the work with Sean did pay off. I was doing my breathing. I was just trying to relax and into that last shot. But it is very pressurised.
Yeah, massively. Yeah. I mean, I think any individual sport, there's a lot more pressure than, I play a team sport, and I always feel at least I've got my team and I'm playing for them. But it is a lot, when it's just you, and it's such a focused, the slightest thing. I'm assuming the slightest wobble.
We do have team events though as well.
Right, okay.
Where they've introduced into target archery for the media, really, to try to get more media coverage. A head-to-head event where you have a team of 3 and they shoot off against each other, and the scores are shouted out after each arrow, which is again putting on the pressure for the next archer to try to do as well, because they don't want to let their team down. But again, you're going back to the same old thing. You're just doing your shot, and you can only do it as well as you can do it. And once it's left the bow, that's it. You just forget it. If it's a bad shot, you can't do anything about it. So get on to the next one.
The head-to-head sound quite exciting, actually. In terms of points, can you just explain the different sort of point systems?
So the very inner kill is 11, then you've got the kill area, which is 10, and an 8, because you've got a very, very tiny, like pro ring, really, 11, 10, 8, and then the animal's 5. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and ours is just the standard, what people are used to seeing. Start at the 10 in the centre and works out in rings out to 1 at the outside the ring. It's a miss. And
then in field archery we have the roundels, and ours goes we have 4 arrows at each target. So ours is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, so it's a bit different.
Do you have any comp routines to get you in the mindset?
No, I just sit
that's good, because then you're not a slave to it.
Quietly and try to relax. But we do competitions every week at the club, and that's really to get us into the way of knowing when we go away to shoot, it's only another shoot in a different venue. It's not a competition, in quotes. you just get yourself into a mindset where you've got to just get on and do the job and relax.
And that makes total sense. That would, I mean,
but
for me, that would
positivity
help.
is the most. You've got to keep positive. It's no good going in thinking, oh,
Absolutely,
the best in Britain's here alongside me, shooting with me. But you've just got to get over that and do your own shot.
Every time I do any training, or whether it's at the gym or shooting, I will write down what I'm going to do. So I wrote down every time that I was going to win the World Champs before I did it.
So you would write, I am going to win the world.
So for the European Champs, every day, every time I do a training session, I'll write it down. I've also put in I'm going to get a world record at the at the European Indoor Champs, because I'll either stop writing it and not believe it, or I'll believe it and do it. So other archers got me into that, and I thought
That's really
it's
cool.
right, because it's psychologically you have to believe you can do it. And if in training I'm beating the world record, why can I not then do it
On the
in
day.
a competition?
Yeah.
I
And it's
should be
obviously
able
worked
to do
for you.
it, and if I can't, it's my head that's saying.
Absolutely.
So I know I can do it in training, but
That's
I've got to believe that I can do it.
You see,
I'll see what happens.
archery is really 80%
But
brain
it's
work,
mental game,
20% physical.
Absolutely.
And that physical is skill rather than
Yeah.
strength. It's getting the techniques right.
It's quite boring training as well. I will spend, like this morning, I've spent 2 hours, 1.75 hours just on a bag. So I've had a bag up, just doing technique, because I've been doing panic shooting, so that's all I've been working on, holding. So it's just can be quite boring, but it's just got to be subconscious. You've just got to be able.
Second
So
nature.
when you come up to shot, I don't know what I'm doing with the shot. All I'm working out in my head: how far is it away? Where I'm going to put my arrow? I shouldn't even think how I'm going to shoot. That just should come. So that's
Naturally.
all I should be thinking about: where I'm going to put my arrow point. And when I'm in the flow, it's like you can't miss. It's like it's amazing. You don't even remember your shot. All you remember is looking at it, and it's going in. The next one's going in. And when you have that, they're not that common, but when you do have them, you can. It's just amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Just can't miss.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Do you train every day?
Yes. Since I've retired. Yeah. So
I don't.
I'll do between about 2 and 5 hours a day, but different things, not just shooting. I go to the gym. I've got a rangefinder, so I'll go for a walk in the woods and I look at a tree and say, how far is that? Check it with my rangefinder, because I've got to try and judge distance. I have set distances, but I also have competitions where I have to.
God, that's a whole new layer to it.
Yeah, and angles. So my husband's made a big, it's a scaffold up in the garden, so I can do downhill shots. So I climb up and then practice my downhill.
So in the comps you do actually, because you mentioned it briefly before, you climb up trees for shots.
Sometimes they have platforms, but it's more you're shooting downhill. Or when we were in France, we were actually at an old castle, and we actually had to shoot up in a belfry, really steep angle. I've never done a shot like that, because you wouldn't have them on the Isle of Man, because they're dangerous, those angles, and you wouldn't. So it was a guessing game where to put that arrow. But you have shots like that, or down into the moat, down into the cellars. They actually put a shot right down into the castle cellars. So it can be from light to dark as well, which again, trying to judge distance or narrow, when you've got like trees very narrow, the distant perspective changes. I think with field archery, I think the more you do it, it's one of those sports you've got to do a long time, and your brain will take over and decide, that's where you're going to put that arrow. So it's one of those sports you just, the more you do it, I think the better you become.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
our distances are all measured.
Right.
They're set.
And
so I have a sight, and I have a sight mark, and I set my sight at that mark for that distance, and that should be where it wants to
And
go.
do you have a particular distance that you think that, this is my forte, this distance, or this one really annoys me?
The longer the distances, the better you want to be at that distance, because that's where you can make a lot of points.
Right, okay.
If that makes sense. Most of the international competition now for my bow are set at 50 metres.
Right, okay.
So
decent distance.
Well,
or is
we
that
shoot
not
70.
for archery?
We shoot 70.
Right, okay, sorry.
The longest distance.
Okay.
We do 70, 60, 50, 30. But a lot of the international competitions are just at 50 now.
Right.
And that's for my bow. And there's a recurve bow that's 70. So there's two distances. So, but it's nice to have the different distances because that's what makes it interesting when you go outdoors.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You'd both be fantastic in a zombie apocalypse, so you would be the people we would need. Just finally, what's your favourite thing about archery? What is it about archery that you love and has kept you doing it for so many years?
Mine is the positivity of it. It taught me how to be positive in just not in archery but in everything and working that across the board.
How so?
Well, my mantra, as everybody knows at the club, is it's not a problem unless you make it one. And you can use that for anything. Anything you do, if you say that phrase to yourself, you're just onto the positive. I can see you writing that down.
Write that down. I'm also going to write down, I will win the lottery every day until
Oh, I just love the sport. I just love going out there, looking at a distance, judging something, and so I don't have sights or anything, so I just put my arrow where I think it should go and just listening to it and hit. I just
that's
just
a nice.
love it.
It's a nice.
It's just a nice feeling. Just a nice feeling of going out and shooting, and. It's so different. As I say, there's so many different things you can do in archery, which is you don't get bored, never get bored. And courses are all different, and people are lovely.
Yeah,
it's
a good sport.
It's a nice sport. Just
quickly, what have you both got coming up next?
So I have got the European Indoor Championships in about 3 weeks. KG Archery have just given me a bow to use this season. I literally picked it up on Wednesday, so I had 3 weeks to get used to the bow. And then they've not announced who's in the Team of Nations yet, so I'm just waiting to hear from actually in the England Team of Nations. I'm representing England in the individuals, but they've not selected the actual... We have a Team of Nations as well, so I'm waiting to hear from that. But that's just an island in Lisbon, so it's European Champs, yes.
And mine is trying to get qualification for the Island Games next year in Guernsey. There's a Euronations competition, Euronations and Commonwealth, coming up in, I think it's the end of June. So that'll be a good marker to work for. But that's when we get outdoors. We're still indoors until the end of March.
Yeah, I think you need to be at the moment, don't you?
Well, Leslie's out all year round, so...
Hats off to you, honestly.
I'm in the barn a lot. We've got a barn. I'm quite lucky.
And that's all we have time for in this week's episode of Women in Sport. A huge thank you and massive congratulations and best of luck in the future to Lesley and Joy. And we'll finish this episode by leaving you with Joy's token Pump It Up song that gets her really motivated and ready to go before a competition. It's Bryan Adams' cryptically named We're Gonna Win.